We have a lot to cover in today's video, including the latest trade talk on the Maple Leafs, the Habs, the Canucks, the Red Wings, and the Devils. Plus, we have another suspension to discuss, and we have news on the Memorial Cup and a potential World Cup of Hockey coming soon as well. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot of news and NHL trade rumors to discuss here today. Let's get started with a couple of quick items regarding some pretty important tournaments. First up, the Memorial Cup, to be hosted by the St. John Sea Dogs right here in my home province of New Brunswick. Scheduled to start right now June the 4th. Right now they're talking about possibly bumping that back. They're not overly interested in getting this tournament dragging on into July, but as Jeff Merrick reported on the 32 Thoughts segment on Hockey Night in Canada last night, he indicates there's a strong possibility that the tournament could get bumped back to around the 18th to the 20th, somewhere around there. Of course, the tournament itself, can last upwards for about a week and a half or so that way it would still be wrapped up by the end of the month. So that's kind of the goal right now. Of course, we have not had the Memorial Cup in some time because of COVID and all the restrictions, which has been a real shame because it's such a fun, important tournament for a lot of these junior age kids that try to become national champions in their leagues, within Canada. Obviously, a lot of these even leagues within the OHL, WHL, and the Q, didn't even really have a lot of regular playoffs. So everything was kind of modified to be able to go through normal league playoffs, followed by the Memorial Cup to crown a national champ. Would be big after 2 years of missing it. So hopefully there's nothing else that holds it back. But right now everything's looking very promising that it'll go ahead. Just needs to be bumped back a little bit to allow leagues to complete everything that they need to get there, considering all the postponements we've had earlier in the year. And Elliotte Friedman's reporting that there's been good progress made on a 2024 World Cup of Hockey. Now, this is the second time we've heard an update on this. First time, I believe, was about a week or so ago. Friedman's reporting that they've had good meetings, good progress so far, and there is another meeting coming up here this coming week. So it sounds like we're getting closer and closer. Of course, this would be an NHLPA sponsored / hosted event. Like I said, it would take place in North America. I'm not sure exactly where, but a good chance it could be like either, Toronto, Montreal, or one of the bigger markets within North America for sure. I'm not sure if it'd be in the States or not. I know the last time I believe was mostly in Toronto, so we'll see where things go, but it thinks we might not have to wait another 4 years for the possibility and opportunity as fans to see the best on best in the world, which is, something fun to look forward to. There's a lot of guys, when it comes to McDavid and McKinnon and Matthews and all these other younger players from other countries that haven't had a chance to go head-to-head and put on their country's jersey as of yet because of the lack of Olympic participation in the last go-around. And, of course, this one that's going on now, they were supposed to be there, but ended up getting canceled because of COVID and COVID's impact on the NHL season. So hopefully we can have that happen here in 2 years' time. And as I mentioned before, it would likely take place in February mid-season, like the All-Star game does. So possible there wouldn't be an All-Star game that year, but it'd be the same sort of scenario like they have with the Olympics, where the league shuts down for a little while and these players go participate in that tournament. Now, as I mentioned as well, we have a couple other quick tidbits. San Jose Sharks' Jacob Menga is going to be out for about 4 to 6 weeks after requiring a foot surgery, so he's going to be out for a while. And Auston Watson of the Ottawa Senators has been suspended for 2 games. He would have served the first game today against the Washington Capitals. Obviously, Watson was called for a penalty at the time of the play against the Bruins on Saturday. Essentially, he was. It could have been worse, to be honest, because the hit was late. And the puck was completely gone, and there was head contact. So I think if the referee would have got a better view of the play, they could have made it more than a 2-minute minor on that play. So the league steps in since that didn't take place, and he gets a 2-game suspension. I don't think there was really dirty intent by the looks of things. It just had to time it out a little bit better. And obviously, Watson's a big guy, certainly much bigger than Anton Bleed, the player on the Bruins that he hit, and that can be hard for players to handle sometimes when there's such a height difference. But obviously, still head contact. It's head contact, and you have to be careful with that stuff for sure. So 2 games for Watson, and it is. We also got word that the Winnipeg Jets should be going to full capacity in their rink this week, which is great news. So certainly that'll help a lot with ticket revenue, and there is a possibility that Ontario will be bumping up their dates. I know originally we were given dates of February the 21st to go to 50%, and then March 14th to go to 100%, and now there's talk that could change. So the February 21st date for 50% could get bumped up. I wouldn't be shocked to hear an announcement by the sounds of things early this week, Monday or Tuesday. So that might be effective probably, even if it's 3 or 4 or 5 days sooner, something to that effect, which means that the March 14th date hopefully could be bumped up a couple of weeks as well, maybe by March 1st or something like that. That would certainly be nice, if not even sooner, of course. So we might be getting our Ontario and Ottawa and Toronto back to full capacity a lot faster than we were originally anticipating, which would be great for them. I know the Senators had inquired about even playing in other markets, including some U.S. destinations as well, but that did not work out, and the league did not approve that. And to be honest, it probably would have been quite costly as well, depending on where they went. So it really turned out not to be overly worth it in that sense. On to the trade talk for today. Like I said, we have a variety of teams we're looking at. One team I want to look at quickly is Detroit. Now, we don't have a lot of linkage to different teams or talks that might be going on behind closed doors and amongst NHL executives, but we do know of a few players that are having some interest and likely could be trade deadline acquisitions by other NHL teams. We've seen reports before that Red Wings forward and veteran Vladislav Nemestikov has generated some interest. He's on a expiring contract, so that's certainly going to create a rental situation. So we could see Nemestikov on the move for somebody who wants to add some extra depth for who can play their middle six. He's somebody who could kind of move up and down the lineup, which is something he's done a lot throughout his career. And of course, you want to include defensemen Nick Leddy and Mark Stahl into that mix as well. I'm not really sure what the future holds of Leddy when it comes to Detroit. I would say there's a decent shot that Mark Stahl could remain in Detroit. I know that one reporter for the Red Wings, Answer Khan, thinks that Stahl could even be re-signed. Now, not to say that that's completely out of the possibilities. To be honest, I think that Yzerman will likely have a conversation with Stahl because he does have a full no move and decide if Stahl wants to have a shot to go anywhere. Because it doesn't matter what the interest is. If he doesn't want to do it, then they can't facilitate that deal. So if Stahl's interested, he could always re-sign with them in the offseason. That's a possibility. Otherwise, it could be a situation where he ends up staying and re-signing because of the clause, but you would think he'd want to chase a cup, for a little while if he had that chance. So, they'll likely make that call closer to the deadline. Now, one player who's generated a lot of trade buzz and interest from around the league really since the beginning of training camp is Shark center Tomas Hertl. Now, Hertl is having a phenomenal season on an expiring contract, was a player who's outspokenly talked about things in the offseason going into training camp about not sure if the Sharks wanted to sign him, not sure he felt like he was getting the interest from the internal existing team to want to keep him around. He wasn't sure what his future held and kind of talked a lot with that to the media. There was also a lot of uncertainty in San Jose because of the outspokenness of the players towards management when it come to the Evander Kane situation and the fact that they were not overly keen, or at least several members of the team. We don't know exactly who, of course, due to privacy, but we heard reports that several players made it known to management that they didn't want to be part of that Sharks locker room if Kane was still there. Now, obviously, Hertl, is having a solid year, no distractions. Kane is gone. I think he's a player who benefited drastically from not having that around anymore. And he seems to be much happier there as well. Now he's outspoken saying he really wants to sign for term. We've heard comments from the interim general manager in San Jose, of course, since Doug Wilson's still on a personal leave, that, they've had some early conversations about an extension. The way Hertl talks, it sounds like he wants as much term as possible. So he's likely looking at 7-8 years. I mean, that's probably going to be, maybe be like a 7-8 year deal, maybe $72 million or something like that. Like, it's going to be an expensive contract because he is having a great season, but at the same time, he's still in those prime years. He's a center. A center who can play the way he does and get you 30, 40 goals, you're going to get paid. So it's probably going to be around that $7 million or better range. I don't know exactly what he's going to get, of course, but it's not going to come cheap. That's how much we can say with certainty. But right now, things are leaning towards Hertl likely remaining with the Sharks based on the dialogue that's been had between the agent and the GM or acting GM. It sounds like they're making good progress. And even though we've had lots of talk about Hertl, he very well stands a good chance to sign in San Jose. Now, if they have no good progress and they're still far apart come the deadline, there could be a change of heart. But right now, I fully expect him to re-sign. Of course, on 32 Thoughts segment as well, Jeff Merrick made it known that the Canucks have interest in Devils center/winger Pavel Zacha. Now, of course, the Canucks are, in a situation where Jim Rutherford, we know, is likely going to be making some change, along with, of course, the new staff that he's got in place now with Patrick Allred and Emily Castonguay and Cami Granato. They're, kind of getting towards the end of what you call the evaluation phase. Besides Granato, who was just hired a few days ago, a lot of the other staff members have been on now for a few weeks. There's been enough time and plus Rutherford's been there for some time. I would think we're probably getting close to seeing the beginning of some moves. We know Rutherford's not necessarily one to sit around and wait for the deadline. There's been a lot of talk about one of the big forwards likely getting moved to give some cap flexibility, whether it's Miller, Garland, Pearson. We've heard a variety of them, really, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be any of them. Although at this point, I think personally that the odds of Miller getting traded are a lot slimmer than we might have thought a couple weeks ago. But they are going to be doing something for sure. We know that. But there's been no talk about where players might go. And of course, we've heard about a few teams that have been interested in Miller and Garland, but we haven't really heard a lot about who might Vancouver be interested in bringing in as potential replacements. But one name that's been surfaced here by Jeff Merrick is Pavel Zacha of the Devils. Of course, we know that Zacha can play center. He's got good size. He was a high draft pick of the Devils some time ago. He's 1 year away from becoming an unrestricted free agent. He will be an RFA on an expiring deal this year. Could very well accept his qualifying offer and go right to being a UFA next year, which could be risky for the Devils or any team that acquires him. But we know the Devils right now have Jack Hughes, Nico Hischier, and Dawson Mercer all at center ice, 1, 2, 3 down the middle. Zacha's had to play more on the wing, and a lot of people feel that maybe his spot in this lineup in the future is certainly in jeopardy, and it might be best if they try to move on from him to bring back something different that might be able to help them in other areas of the team, since they have pretty good depth at center. They're all pretty young guys, all up and coming players that are going to continue to get better, and Zacha might not fit there anymore. So after all the time he spent in the organization, a trade might be coming, and Vancouver, with the interest they have, might be able to shore up their bottom six as well. So I'm not sure exactly what kind of deal. There was no mention about what the trade package might look like or who they might offer or anything like that. But we know there's been a lot of interest in Miller and Garland, but we haven't heard anything more about who might be coming in. So Zacha could be one of those players by the sounds of things that they're targeting as potential replacements. Now, the Habs, of course, have been getting a ton of interest in defenseman Ben Chiarot, according to Friedman, Merrick, and other NHL insiders. Elliot Friedman was saying this weekend that obviously there's a lot of concern over the injury that took place yesterday. Chiarot is now officially on IR, but he's not expected to be out too long. But he wonders if that might kind of speed a trade up, given the fact that the Montreal Canadiens are not going to want to take a chance that anything more serious happens after he returns. And of course, acquiring teams are going to want to get something done as well, because if he becomes injured out longer term and doesn't become an option, well, that's certainly not great for the teams looking to beef up their D, and it's not good for Montreal, who's trying to gain some assets in return. So I would think that talks are likely going to accelerate. They're probably right on that regard. Numerous teams have been mentioned here. Friedman reports that there's still interest from teams like the Blues, the Hurricanes, the Kings, the Flames, the Rangers, and a few others too. So hard to say where Ben Chiarot ends up, but we do know that a couple of those teams, including LA and Calgary, also have interest in Tyler Toffoli, and that very well could constitute a larger scale, bigger package trade going back and forth between the Habs and one of those two teams. So we'll have to watch this situation, but I would suspect that Chiarot is much more likely to be moved ahead of the deadline as soon as he's able to return. At least that sounds like things are heating up in that regard. Now, they also mention here that there's good progress on a Nick Ritchie trade out of Toronto. Of course, Ritchie fell out of favor after having a long slump with not much offense going on at all. Problem is with Ritchie is that he still has another year. They give him a 2-year deal at $2.5 million. He's been down in the American Hockey League for some time, and according to Friedman and Merrick, there is progress and traction on a potential trade for the winger. Now, Friedman goes on to say that there's been no official trade request from Nick Ritchie's camp, but it sounds like that could be coming if a deal doesn't come together soon. I would imagine he's not likely happy playing in the minors, but at the same time, he was given a great opportunity, in my opinion, and could not take advantage of it. So it's not a wonder that they had to make that kind of move. The Leafs, of course, are leery of doing a buyout if they can't find a trade, because that would tie up cap space again on a buyout, whereas a trade, they'd be able to move them on a little bit quicker. Or a buyout, I believe, would cost them about $300,000 on the cap, so they don't really want to retain any more than that. So even if they hold back a little bit of money, it might entice teams. But certainly look around teams going to the playoffs that could use a big body, not afraid to play physical, a little bit of offense. Richie's been kind of, inconsistent, you could say, with the offensive part of his game. But, I'm not sure if a team like Boston, where he played before, would have any interest in bringing him back. Or a team like the Ducks, where he's also familiar. I don't know. They haven't linked him to any specific teams yet. They're just saying that there's interest and progress and traction, and that the Leafs are hoping to free up some cap space here soon to make some other subsequent moves. So let me know your thoughts on everything discussed here today down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We will keep you up to date with all the latest news, rumors, and analysis on all 32 NHL teams. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.